Another thing that really stood out in the book is, okay, so the monarchy is a new form of government, United States. The fictional author has written this, I don't know, how many years into the Restoration?
Well, the Instauration, as they call
Instauration.
it, which is a weird word that basically means, it's a combination of install and restoration, but it's not original to me. Well, see, I was purposely vague, but I would guess, given that I am in my 80s or 90s when the Instauration takes place, so it's roughly the 2050s, 2040s when it takes place.
Oh, okay.
The Instauration. Now, our author is in his early 90s.
Okay.
So I would say it's probably around 2130.
Okay, so about 80 years or so.
Yeah.
Okay.
80 or 90, well, no, from then.
From then, yeah, okay, so...
From the Instauration, so about 2130, I would say.
So the monarchy has been in place for around 80 years.
Yeah.
And the author writes that 60% of the United States is now Catholic.
Mm.
I'm sure you're using this, you're drawing from historical examples on this?
Yeah, very typically, when well, see, firstly, right now the population of the United States is something like 27% nominally Catholic. Now, mind you, there were a number of other presumptions in the book, which I deal with in my afterword, that may not come to pass. But one of them was that the church had regained her evangelistic mission. Her leadership had regained their sense of evangelization. Now, let's pretend for a second that that 27% went devout in 30 years.
Okay.
Now, the king, although it's made very clear that he doesn't impose his religion, nevertheless, he is the king, he is the center of national life. The ceremony is all Catholic, or most of it, although he partakes in certain non-Catholic things. And traditionally, when the ruling classes are going a certain way, people tend to follow them. It's just the way they do it. Now, mind you, there are a lot of exceptions, but you may recall that although he makes a point of keeping the Bill of Rights, so Congress does not establish a religion, he also points out that that doesn't apply to him. And you'll also notice that the states are allowed to establish religions if they like. Interesting. Now, I don't really go into detail of any of them actually doing this, except for one. Utah, yeah. And then, as is because the governors are appointed by the king, it's immediately pointed out that while the Latter-day Saints is the state religion of Utah, no Mormon has ever been appointed governor. Now, that doesn't mean they were all Catholic, but we know they weren't Mormons. So that 60% figure is based upon several things. One, the king more or less doing his own kind of evangelizing. The church evangelizing. Also, don't forget, too, that there's free immigration with the Philippines.
Okay,
which
so
will become
all their
part of the
Catholics
United
are coming
States.
over here. Okay.
Yeah. So I think the 60%, granted, I sort of pulled it out of the air.
Well, see, what I was thinking is that, or hoping, is that you were drawing from historical examples where you've gotten a monarchy Catholic government coming in and then everybody changes, or something like that.
You see that with almost any government that brings in a religion. Well, I mean, look at us. Now, our nation has a state church of sorts. It's very vague, called secular humanism. But in a mere 50 years, we have all of us, to a greater or lesser degree, come to accept it.
Oh, okay, I see.
I mean, the dominant faith of our nation today is secular humanism.
We just don't notice it as, or recognize it as a religion.
We don't look at it as a religion.
It rubs off on everybody.
Yeah, we don't. It's just the way things are. And I would say that 60% of Americans, at least to a greater or lesser degree, are secular humanists. That was not true in 1960 when I was born. What are the tenets of secular humanism? Well, it's hard to say because They're very vague. It's more of an anti-tenet sort of thing. But there's certain, abortion is a sacrament, and to question it is evil.
Wow.
Morality comes through legislation, which is why the marriage can be changed. It does have dogmas, and if you disagree with them, you're a bigot, which is like being a heretic.
That's true.
And you will be abused horribly if you transgress the tenets of our state religion. The difference between our republic and that monarchy is that its animating philosophy is readily identifiable. Ours is much vaguer, so it's much more difficult to engage with. It has no theologians, it builds no culture, it has no art, it has no music. Well, it does in the sense of being the opposite of all those things. It is ultimately a destructive thing, not unlike communism under the Soviets. It's destructive because it erodes the very basis of human society. I cannot think of, with the exception of communism, I cannot think of any other animating philosophy, state church, that is as damaging to its adherents as this one is. But it's not for me to decide. Not being a member of the ruling class, it's not up to me to decide what we're going to believe. I leave that to my masters.